How is it that some people like myself can get a black belt in 4 years and others take 10 to 15? Is it because I was training every single day? No, because I definitely wasn't. Is it because I'm like a naturally smart? No, because I'm definitely not. Is it because I'm on steroids? Yes. No, I'm not on steroids. Definitely not. I am one of the laziest people I know. And if I can do something in 4 years, anyone can do something in 4 years. To a certain extent, of course. But my point is, there is smart ways to approach training. And there is not so smart ways to approach training. And it's not your fault. If you've been doing this for 5, 6, 7 years, 15 years, and you're not a black belt level yet, it's not your fault. It's no one's fault. A lot of us are just following the same model of learning that was given to us by the industrial age. The industrial age education system of repeat and regurgitation. Just listening to what the teacher says and repeating it the exact same way so that you get a good score. That's kind of what we see when you look at jiu-jitsu. You see a class run, the teacher comes out, tells you how to do something. If you can repeat it, you're a good student. And then suddenly you realize that you still can't do the damn things. And I've seen this a lot. I've seen heaps of people in jiu-jitsu. In my time, I've seen so many people that can demonstrate beautiful techniques, but when it comes to rolling, they can't apply them. Now, I'm probably the opposite. I'm probably the person that demonstrates the ugliest looking techniques. But when it comes to rolling, I can do it with great efficiency. Why is that? Why do some people struggle to apply techniques, struggle to remember techniques, and other people can do them quite quickly? I think it all comes down to the way you learn jiu-jitsu. Now, if you look at the way I learned jiu-jitsu, now I went from white to black in 4 years, and this is training about 5 times a week, also while working a full-time job, also while playing another sport, and this was with no prior grappling experience. Now, I believe I'm the only person that's done it in 4 years without having prior grappling experience. There's a lot of other people that did it, but also had like 7 years of no-gi training, or they started with one instructor, went to brown belt, then restarted with another and went to white to black. They're not the people I would listen to because it's not completely true. Or maybe they were a Division I wrestler already, or an Olympic judoka, and then they get their black belt in jiu-jitsu. That's not too hard because it's very similar. They've already got such a good start in something very similar. But if you take someone like me that starts out in Australia with not much more than average grapplers at the time and is able to excel in jiu-jitsu, to compete at a high level in jiu-jitsu, the elite level of black belt in jiu-jitsu in 4 years, then there's something going on here that a lot of people are missing. And I'm not the only one that's doing it. There's a lot of other people that are doing it. Let's take, for example, Espen Matthias from Norway, or Tommy Langaker from Norway. Both destroyed the black belts this year, and they haven't been training that long, and they've been over in Norway by themselves, shut off from most of the civilization. I'm pretty sure they're just about to get the internet over there, and look how well they've done. So why is it? Well, I'm going to state a few things in which you could change that would change the way you get better at jiu-jitsu, the way you excel at jiu-jitsu, the way you see jiu-jitsu, the way you breathe jiu-jitsu. Not really, but yeah. Anyway, here's a couple things I would stop doing if I was you. I would stop doing pointless warm-ups. I don't think I ever want to see another fucking hip escape again, let alone have to do one. And this is why I will avoid anyone's class, because I don't like doing pointless warm-ups. A hip escape is quite simple. Once you get the application of it and you can do it, there you go, you've done. You don't need to keep doing it. You don't need to keep doing front rolls. You don't need to keep doing that weird shit, whatever it is, push-ups. You should be doing something a little different. I'm going to start with what you shouldn't be doing, and then I'm going to add what you can change it with. The second thing is what I would stop doing is I would stop buying these instructionals online, these jiu-jitsu instructionals, the secret to this and that, and all these technical instructionals. I would definitely buy my instructionals because I'm very different. I don't teach in techniques. I'm not sitting there telling you how to do something. I'm telling you why to do something and how to change the way you're looking at something, which we'll get to. Stop looking at techniques. Stop trying to learn other people's techniques. Okay? Third, stop drilling techniques. And when I say drilling, I mean high repetition drilling of a singular technique. Once you know how to do a technique competently, leave it there. Then you need to start learning how to do it in real time. Doesn't matter how pretty you can look doing it and demonstrating it on an opponent that is cooperating with you. It's how good can you do it with someone that isn't. And that's the big difference. So those are the three things I would stop immediately. And this is what I would substitute with it. Warm-ups that actually warm your body up properly to stop you from getting injured, and that have an element of problem solving. Why problem solving? I think problem solving is the number one most important key in someone's jiu-jitsu. It's probably the number one key in someone's life, problem solving. Life is full of problems, and the better you are at solving problems, the better you are at life. And the same is with jiu-jitsu. You are consistently faced with problems, and you have to solve them. And if you're bad at solving them, you're going to be bad at jiu-jitsu. I'll tell you why, because jiu-jitsu is not about remembering techniques and demonstrating them. It's not a choreographed dance routine. It's chaos. It's one guy trying to stop you from doing what you want to do. It is a medium for two people to battle their own demons. And it is always changing. It is never the same. No position will come up exactly the same ever. No two people are exactly the same. They may look similar, like Keenan and Lurch from whatever the hell that old show was, or Frankenstein, but they are very different, I can tell you that much. Very different. So you can never expect the same position to come up exactly the same way twice. It's always going to be different. It's always going to be changing. People move differently. People think differently. And so you should be able to evolve and problem solve a lot differently or better. So problem solving. I remember when I was playing with football, now we had an average team and we got a really good coach in. And this is Aussie rules football. This is a real football, not that soccer bullshit. Real football, Australian rules football. Google it if you want to see how fucking rough that was. I had more injuries playing Australian rules football than I ever did in jiu-jitsu. Anyway, I'm not here to sell Australian rules football. Don't do it. But we had a coach come in, and he changed one major thing with our training that took us from an average side in that division to the number one side in that division where we did not lose a game. What did he change? You know what he did? He took out any of our static training and replaced it with problem solving. So let's say we had an exercise or a drill that we had to kick the ball. We had two groups, and one group would kick the football to the other group, run up, and then the other group would kick it back down to them, and it would just go back and forth. That's a static drill. There's no real thinking involved in that. You know what you've got to do. You've got to grab the ball and you've got to kick it back to the other group. It's very simple, very basic. There's no high levels of pressure or stress. Now, what he would do is he would change that and put a defender in the middle. So now, you're not only kicking to the other group, you've got a defender that's going to try and stop you. So you don't know what the defender's going to do. You've got to try and predict that, and you've got to think in the moment. You've got to improvise, and you've got to problem solve. And it brings a lot of stress on you because it's scary, because you don't want to fuck up and you don't want the team to be getting 10 push-ups if you kick the ball wrong. You're scared. You're under pressure. You're nervous. But what happens is that you become better under pressure. You become a better problem solver. And then on game day, when the pressure is up, you feel comfortable because your whole training session is under pressure. It's all problem solving. And we changed every single drill in football to have an element of problem solving so you had to think. The problem with drilling a technique or practicing a technique is you don't, or just doing a boring warm-up, you don't need to think. You do it a couple times and you're thinking, and then suddenly you're just repeating that process. So like I said, I'm happy with someone to drill a technique, 15, 20 times until they can competently do it. But once they can competently do it, I want them to practice in real time because that's where you're going to find the timing. And that's what we're going to get to next. So the first thing is change your warm-ups to involve problem-solving exercises as well. Everything should be problem-solving. Could be warming up your grips. You got to grab your opponent in a certain way. It could be anything, but it requires problem solving. The second thing, don't watch technique videos. Watch live rolling. Or if you can get a good enough coach that can explain why he's doing what he's doing and the concepts behind it, watch them. Otherwise, watch live rolling. People can show you these beautiful techniques 24/7 and all these great little maneuvers, these 75 fucking points to get to the back or whatnot. But if they can't do it in real life or they can't demonstrate how they do it, then they are pointless to you. There's a lot of great athletes out there, world champion athletes, that can't coach. And a lot of them are making money coaching. And what do I mean? It's very easy. There's a lot of people that get really good at jiu-jitsu, especially as kids. They get good at jiu-jitsu. They win a black belt world championship, but they're not aware. They're not self-aware of what they're doing. Or sometimes they're self-aware of what they're doing, but they don't know why they're doing it, which is the really important part. You can show someone what you're doing, but if you can't articulate why you're doing it in a manner that they can understand, then you're pointless to them. If you can show them why you're doing it, then they can take that why and they can apply that to multiple areas of jiu-jitsu. So then suddenly, instead of getting one technique that applies in one particular area of jiu-jitsu or one particular time in jiu-jitsu, then suddenly you've got a why that you can take into all of your areas of jiu-jitsu. That's the concept, the why. Why am I doing this? Why does this technique work? And a lot of people are not aware of that. So I watch what they're doing and I try and get a really good idea of what they're doing. And even if I'm not really sure, I can still understand that my brain will absorb that information by osmosis. There's a lot of times in my past, in my career, that I would watch people roll a certain way and I would have no fucking idea what they were doing. But then when I would go to roll later on, I would suddenly be imitating what they were doing. And through imitating it, I had the confidence that there were possibilities there because I'd seen it. I wasn't sure what it is, but I would allow myself the time to discover them. And then things would happen, magic things would happen. And I tell people this all the time. Being taught a technique is like looking at the cover of a book. Discovering a technique is like writing that fucking book yourself. Because through discovering a technique, you have to go through a process of elimination, a process of trial and error. You're going to try maybe 100 different things from that area, and then suddenly one thing's going to work. And you're going to remember that one thing, and you're going to know why that worked, because you've already made all these mistakes, and you understand the why. That's the most important thing. And then, and this is really important right now, I want you to really pay attention, because it's very hard to articulate for me even. We remember the best. We store information the best in an emotionally aroused situation. So what does that mean? What that means is when we are emotionally aroused, when we're excited, when we're stressed, when we're scared, we store information at a much deeper level than when we're calm. How does this apply? Okay. Well, let's say you're learning a technique and someone shows you this and you're drilling it. You're just practicing the technique over and over again. Are you really stressed? Are you scared? Maybe if your coach is watching you, but I doubt it. I'm pretty sure you feel really comfortable. So then what happens? Your mind's calm. It's not storing information near as well. When you're doing specific training and you're rolling and it's scary and you want to win and you're stressed and you're exhausted, you start storing information at a much deeper level. I'm sure you've had a traumatic experience, and through that you can probably remember everything about yourself. Let's say let's take 9/11 for instance. The morning of 9/11, I was sitting by my heater in Australia. It happened really early in Australia, so I only saw the aftermath of the second plane. I was sitting by the heater, I was kneeling, I was wearing a blue t-shirt. I remember everything about that day. I remember that time, I remember the weather, everything. But the day after, can I remember anything? No, not at all. Because it was a traumatic event, I stored that information very clearly. Now, I'm sure if you just think about any kind of traumatic event you've had in your life, how well you can remember things. So if you want to remember something, you have to arouse your emotion. And that's what happens when you're doing specific training when it's live. Because you are excited about something working, or you're scared about something going the wrong way, and you record that information, you remember why you shouldn't do that or why you should do this thing. So discovering a technique is by far more powerful than learning them. I don't even like to learn anything. I don't want people to show me anything. I want to discover everything. To me, jiu-jitsu is like my own little creation. I don't want to know how to do things. I want to do it myself. You can give me some tips and stuff, but I wanted to discover it myself because one, it's more enjoyable that way for me, and two, it's so much more powerful. And I never knew any of this. I only discovered this once I started studying science of learning afterwards, and I tried to figure out why did I excel so quick in jiu-jitsu compared to other people. Then I started seeing a lot of the science behind this kind of stuff. The last one, stopping the drilling and replacing it with specific training. What is specific training? I've already touched down a little bit on it. Specific training is live training in a controlled environment. Why do I say controlled environment? What do I mean? What I mean is, let's say you need to work on half guard, but half the time during rolling or free rolling or Jesus Christ, what am I trying to say? Free rolling or competition rounds, it's easy not to get a chance to work on your half guard. Maybe you're training with someone better than you, so they just pass you and mount you for 6 minutes, and then you don't get a chance to work on that. But with specific training, you can specify the rules yourself. You can say, let's start in half guard, and if you pass, we start again. If I sweep you or submit you, I start again. And you keep practicing over and over again, and you get that experience in that half guard, which is what is really important. And it's really important for you to be honest with yourself, to really be conscious and know where you're at, where you need to work, what you need to work on, what you don't need to work on. And keep practicing the stuff that you need to so that you become very well-rounded. That's why specific training is so good. You can do it and know that, okay, I'm not going to get stuck under mount for 6 minutes and spend, maybe I've got a chance to roll with a really good person. I remember when I was training with the Mendez brothers years ago when I was a brown belt. And if they passed my guard, I would give them a submission. And they'd be, kid, man, why you tap? And I'd be like, oh, no, you got me. But they knew they didn't get me. Well, they could have anyway if they wanted to, but they knew I gave it to them. But the reason why I gave it to them is because I'm like, here I am with a chance to train with one of the best grapplers in the world. I want to learn from them. They passed my guard. My mistake wasn't getting submitted. My mistake was letting them pass my guard. So I was happy to tap and restart again so I could get a chance to fix the mistakes in the first place. Prevention is by far better than the cure. I'm never looking to cure something. I'm looking to prevent it. My theory is like, why? I don't need to have really good back escapes if no one can ever take my back. No one's ever taken my back with 2 hooks in competition, ever. Okay, I just wanted to brag a little bit there. No one's ever done that. I've been submitted plenty of times, but no one's taken my back. So why do I have to be so good at defending the back? It'll happen naturally if people defend my back, but point is, prevention is by far better than the cure. So if I get a chance, or you get a chance to train with someone really good, spend it wisely. Ask a lot of questions. Watch them. Learn from them. Now, those are 3 things I would change. But one thing I do want to touch base on, which is the most important thing in jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, is the psychological element of jiu-jitsu. If you've ever read The Art of War, Sun Tzu, he talks about this a lot. Most great philosophers talk about it. Bruce Lee used to talk about it a lot. There is a physical application of martial arts, and then there is the mental one. And the physical one is probably 20% of the mental one. The other 80% is mental. So you can have really good technique, okay? But if I know what you're doing, you're never going to get it to work. Unless you're super strong and super fit, you break me down mentally until I'm exhausted that I just eventually give it to you, you're not going to get it to work. Imagine playing poker. okay, and you've got a mirror on your chest, how many games do you think you would win? I'm going to presume no one's blind and you're going to lose every single one of them. That's very similar to jiu-jitsu. If you are predictable, you are going to struggle. If you can't predict your opponent, you're going to struggle twice as much. If you can't do either one of those, you're gone. And most people in jiu-jitsu never even think about that. They never even think, what's my opponent thinking right now? What's my opponent thinking of doing? What does my opponent think I'm doing right now? These are some of the things I think about all the time. Every time we're in a position, I'm thinking, what does he think I'm going to do? And I'm going to try and do what he doesn't expect. Or I'm thinking, what is he going to do now? And I call it reading. I used to play football back in the day, as I told you earlier. And sometimes pre-season, we would get these fat dudes that would come down and they'd be eating a meat pie, smoking a cigarette on the edge of the oval. And then it would come to our beep test where you had to get about 8 or above to be fit, and they would get like a 3, and I'd be like, man, this guy's going to fucking stink this year. He's going to ruin everything. And then game day, they get more touches than anyone else and do more damage than anyone else. And I'd be like, what the fuck is going on there? How the hell did that fat dude get so many touches and kick so much ass? Because he had the ability to read the play. He knew where the ball was going to go before it was there. While everyone else was running after that ball like a kid going after candy, he was sitting back waiting for that ball to come to him. And it did all the time. Now, if you look at jiu-jitsu, it's very similar. It's very easy to get stuck chasing the candy. But you have to be patient. You have to learn how to read your opponent. To do that, you have to learn how to feel your opponent. Not in a sexual way, unless that's your thing. You have to learn how to feel it. There's an old saying, you can't feel a heartbeat with a tensed hand. You have to learn to be soft. You have to learn to be observant. When I'm rolling with someone, I'm watching them intently. I'm watching how they're breathing. I'm watching where they're looking. I'm feeling how their body tenses up before they go to do something. I'm storing all this information to use it against them later on. So a lot of people, when I roll with them the first time, mainly training, they'll do a lot better than what they will the second time, and the third time, and the fourth time. And things will get worse and worse for them because I start to predict what they're doing. I start to learn their habits, their behaviors. And for me, it's really hard for people to get better start doing better against me because I start doing the opposite. I start to figure out things that he would least expect, and I start to use it against them. That's why in competition, 99% of the time, I've done better the second time I fought someone than the first. The only exclusion to this is when I fought Philippe Penna the second time, where I beat him the first time and I lost to him. But pretty much every other person I've beaten the second time or done significantly better than because I learned a few things that made a big difference. So when you are rolling with someone, pay attention to them. Don't be so self-absorbed about, thinking about what you're doing. I'm not saying to be completely reactive, but you have to practice this part. Most of you are probably just thinking about what you're doing when you're rolling. Start learning to figure out what they're doing. Feel them. Recognize certain muscles they tense when they're about to do something. I have a theory. It's called the fart theory. You ever been in bed with your partner and then you feel them load up and you turn to them and say, hey, you're about to fart, aren't you? They're like, no, what are you talking about? And they're all tensed up and their head's like a tomato. And you know they're about to fart because you've done that yourself so many times. You've broken wind. You've crop dusted people. You know what it feels like to tense and try and hold that, to cock that one leg up and to spray that out and hope it's not shit. You know what that feels like. So you could recognize that. Now, eventually in jiu-jitsu, you'll start recognizing the same things, but you have to be aware of them. When you're on top of them, hold a position. Wait for them to move and feel what it feels like when they do that certain movement so that next time when you're in that same position, you know what they're going to do by the way they tense their body, by the way they breathe. Most people will take a big deep breath when they're about to explode. Most people will tense up their body when they're about to explode. Or you'll see where they change their base. Maybe they're on their back and they creep their feet really close to their ass because you know they're about to explode up. These are things you should be always watching. Learn how to read your opponent. and learn how to be as unpredictable as you can. I talk about animals in wildlife. You ever see a lion hunting? What does it do? It goes low in the grass. It gets as close to its opponent, which is the gazelle. It gets as close to its prey as it can until it's as close as it can be before the prey sees it, and then it sprints and it gets it. The lion is subtle, and you have to be subtle if you want to be not predictable. If you don't want to be predictable, you have to be subtle. You have to make your opponent feel comfortable. The lion does that by hiding. It hides until it gets as close as it can, and then it sprints. And you have to do the same thing. If you don't, imagine the lion just sprinting from a kilometer away or a mile away. The gazelle's going to hear it and it's going to be gone before the lion gets anywhere near it. That's what most people do. They see that Kimura and they just jump from it from 50 meters away and they miss it. Or they see that double leg takedown and their eyes light up and they go, yes, I'm going for it. And then the guy's sprawled already. Missed it because you were predictable. Be the lion. Be as subtle. Get as close to that submission, as close to that takedown as you can. Make them feel comfortable, like they're not under attack. And then when they least expect it, bang, you take it. We do this in life all the time. Think about it. You're a guy. You see a hot girl walking around. You're like, man, I want to fuck that shit out of that. But you can't go straight to it and tell him. Can't go straight to her and say, listen, let's make babies, baby. She's probably going to slap you and walk away. You got to be subtle. You got to make them feel comfortable. You got to be like, hey, what's going on? I see you're reading that book. I'm also into Harry Potter. Try and create a connection. Make them feel comfortable. And then later on, once their guard's down, then you can start attacking. I'm not endorsing you attack that way, but you can see how it works. Hide your intentions. Be subtle. Make them feel comfortable. Make them feel comfortable when they're about to be attacked. Make them feel stressed when they're attacking you. Make them feel like you are comfortable when you're getting attacked. Make them feel like you're uncomfortable when you're about to attack. All that. You have to mentally fuck with people. It is all mental, psychological warfare, manipulation. If you can learn how to manipulate someone, you can beat them. This is my half-an-hour lesson, my half-an-hour podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be doing plenty more, and I'm going to be interviewing some of the greats. And I'm going to bring some controversial questions to them that you guys will enjoy. So send me your questions, whatever you have, like, share, apply, whatever the fuck you have to do on this thing. And go check out all my products at kitdaletraining.com. Start with the Art of Learning Jiu-Jitsu Volume 1 and 2, where I talk about the way to structure your training to get the best possible memory retention, to be able to get your black belt as quick as possible, to excel, to be really good at Jiu-Jitsu and be really good looking as well. Art of Learning Jiu-Jitsu Volume 1, 2, and 3 are out. I also have the Z-Guard Masterclass with Craig Jones, the Back-Taking Masterclass with Craig Jones, and the Russian Gripping Masterclass is my latest product on there, which is great. It goes along really well with the No-Gi Gripping Masterclass. Check them out. I know you'll love them. We've had great feedback. kitdaletraining.com. Otherwise, thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys later.